Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am working on my 1995 Plymouth Neon, Plymouth or Dodge, I think it's Plymouth, 2.0. The water pump has gone bad in it, and this car has only got 38,000 original miles on it. It's set for about 9 years, and the paint's not so hot on it. Of course, they all had that problem with the clear coat, but I've been touching it up, and I've already done this side, and it's in pretty good shape, so it's getting there. So I decided to go ahead and do the water pump. What happened was when I was driving it, it started to make a little bit of noise. Even when I first got it, it was making some noise. And let me walk back around here as I'm talking. It sounded like marbles in a can. I wish I would have recorded it before I tore it apart, but I'm halfway through this, and I decided to go ahead and make a video. Obviously, you know, I do this a lot. I get through a project and decided to make a video, so I'll go ahead and make a video here and show you what I've done so far. I've gone ahead and taken everything apart. Let me get my light on the top of the engine. I've taken out the water pump. I'm sorry, not the water pump. The power steering pump. I pulled off a few hoses, and I pulled them up here on the side, and I've taken off the water coolant housing. That is off, and the biggest, like I said, the hardest thing was to get the power steering off. I had a little problem getting some of the bolts, but basically what I did, I took off a couple of bolts on the back side, and once you get the bolts off, you can loosen it up. You can take the pump, and you can loosen the belt off. You can take it off now. The pump is here on the floor. See, there's two bolts on the front right there. You probably can't see it very well. And there's a bolt that holds it on the front. It's a long bolt. Get my light over here. And it goes right here. Now this bolt, once you loosen this bolt up a little bit, you can slide this bracket out. You don't have to take the bolt clear out, because this bolt goes into the block. And it's part of your motor mount. And over here is the motor mount that I've taken off. They're sort of set right here. And I marked I put paint on some of the bolts to kind of keep them where they should be. And that's basically it. You got two bolts on the top of the motor mount that comes out. And once you get that off, I like to stick a little jack up under here and kind of jack the motor up a little bit with a block of wood. The motor is actually, let's see, right there is the motor, the block, and there's my wood and stuff, and I've actually let it down. Once I got all that off, I was pretty good to go. The only thing that really held me up last night, it took about a half hour to figure out. There's a bolt on the alternator. The alternator on this thing is down here. There are two bolts. One right there, and there's a bolt up there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Probably not. Let's see, right about there on the top. Get down here, see if I can hold this light. Right there. Once you loosen that up, I thought, well, I think this alternator will loosen up, and I should be able to loosen enough to get the belt off. Well, it wouldn't move, so I figured there was another bolt somewhere. So there was, and it was hidden. And this will save you a lot of time. What you got to do is take out the air cleaner, which sits right here, and it's right there, sitting. And there was one bolt in there I had to take out, but it's kind of a pain to get out. I had to wiggle it, and there's a little clip that slides up in the case right there, and there's really nothing on the back. And once you pull this up out of there, it takes a little wiggling. You can get behind the power steering unit. I'm going to stick my camera down, and I'm hoping there'll be enough light to see. But right down here, there is a bolt that holds the alternator. It's an adjustment. Let me see if I can get my finger on it. Right there. You can see it or not. That is your bracket bolt that's on the back there that adjusts that alternator. To loosen it, once you loosen this, you can take your belt off. This is what was holding me up right here. This one bolt. So once you get in here with the ratchet and everything, you can loosen that bolt. Eventually, the alternator will give, and then you take the belt off, and you're good to go. Now, having said that, well, I took off the air cleaner hose and all that, and I did discover on the back, let me flip the camera around one more time, there's an oil leak. These oil cinders leak a lot, and I don't think I'm going to be able to hold this at an angle, but on this side near the transmission there's an oil cinder sensor down there. Let's see, I already got the wire off. There is the wire. You're probably not going to be able to see the sensor, but there's a sensor right there. It's leaking oil. I thought it was remain sealed, but it turns out it's leaking, and a lot of these neons, these 2Os, they do that. So check that if you have a leak. That is going to be probably one of your issues, and you might want to fix that while you got that air cleaner out. All right, now the good news is I did not have to take any of my AC lines off. It's still charged, so I am good. Now, what I'm doing now, I had to go to the parts store and rent one of these bad boys. I tried to do it with a set of these cheaper claw things, grippers, and take this pulley off, and it wouldn't budge. I just busted. So I had to go to the parts store and rent one of these. It's a harmonic balancer puller. There it is. It's like $130. They give you your money back once you bring it back, because they know you're going to need parts and spend money. So there it is. Now I am ready to take this off. I'm going to hold the light there, and there is the claw I'm going to use, and they give you a rod to stick in the crank. Now the problem I always have, and I don't understand why they don't make this rod longer, is once you get it started, get this loose, the balancer starts to pull, the harmonic balancer starts to pull out. You have to sort of stop and put something else in here and take up the space, because this only comes off so far. Of course, they give you a smaller rod, which is right there, but that doesn't do me any good, so I'll have to figure that out. So really all I'm doing right now is taking this harmonic balancer off, or crank pulley, and once I get that off, I can take this plastic shield off, and I'm ready to get into the belt and all that. You can see part of the belt there, but I did stick a screwdriver down in there last night on the water pump, and it's moving around, so it is bad, but I'll show you that water pump once I get it off. Let's see, other than that, it was just mainly some little stuff on the top here to get off, and once you get that off, you're okay. You can get in here and tear this apart. It's not too bad. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the light down here, and maybe here in a sec you can watch me kind of take this off. So let me set this up here real quick. Alright guys, I'm going to go ahead and do my best here to set this camera up and break this bolt loose. You can watch me as I do it. Now I am going to cheat. I've got an impact wrench. It's electric. You're probably not going to get this done with a big breaker bar. You probably can if you got a couple of guys, but I'm solo today, so I'm going to do what I can. I've got this all set up on here, and we'll go ahead and see what we got. We'll go ahead and see if it'll go ahead and budge. Sweet. Yep. See it budged. It started off. And like I said, I did put a little bit of oil on this rod, the bolt. If I can find it here. On the bolt right here. It makes it a lot easier, and also it makes people at the parts store happy when you rent their tools. It doesn't ruin it. So I've got grease on this bolt that goes in there. So that is started off. Let me hold the light up here. I'm sorry if it's kind of annoying here. I've got to do this all at one time with one hand. And there it's started off, and you can probably see behind there it's come off quite a ways. Now I've got to stick another bolt in there and go ahead and finish it, pull it off. Let me go ahead and set the camera down here and find me a longer extension, and we'll finish this up here real quick. Alright, since I couldn't find a solution to my rod, I needed something just a little bit longer, so I went to the local parts store, well actually the farm store, and I bought this rod for $3. Brand new rod. So what I'm going to do is cut it. I'm going to cut this rod just a little bit longer than the original one that came in the kit, wheel puller. That should get my crank the rest of the way off, so I'll go ahead and cut this off my grinder and we'll finish this up. This may be the best way to do it, but I would suggest break it loose first with theirs, and then use the one that you're cutting, or the rod you're going to make, to take the rest of the way off. That way, you know it'll come loose pretty easy. So let me go ahead and cut this, and I'll be right back. Alright, I got my rod made. Let's go ahead and see if I can get this off real quick. It'll be okay, we'll see. Perfect. There it is. Oh, things you gotta do sometimes. Here's my rod. Just make sure when you get the rod, you might make sure you get some good material. This is, thought it was steel, but it bent just a little bit, but I got it out, so I'll just have to take the rod out here in a second. But that's off. All you gotta do is take the cover off and get in there and start fixing a few things. Replace that water pump. So I'll check back here in a little bit and give you an update on my progress. Oh, by the way, some of these other pullers, the Harmonic balancer, some of the other models, they have little ears. So the pullers work the same way, just so you know. So if you end up with a tool that's got the little ears on the crank there, basically you just slide this around and catch the ears. And like I said, I gotta pull this out. There's my little rod I made, and show you the length. Here's the rod they give you in the kit, and there's the one I made. So I just made it a little bit longer. Worked for me. I don't understand why they did not make this rod a little bit longer to make your life easier. They figured, well, we'll get you started, and when you guys get halfway out, you're on your own and figure it out yourself. So I guess maybe somebody was sleeping in the engineering department and made this kit. I don't know. Alright, I'll give you guys an update here in a little bit. I'll go ahead and take that cover off and we'll go from there. Alright, I got my little bolts off on the bottom of the cover. Now all I gotta do is go on the top up here, pull this off. It's a little tight on that power steering hose there, you gotta work it around that. There it is. Alright, that's off. That looks like it's in pretty good shape. Keeping everything together. And here is the timing belt and the water pump. Hang my light. There it is. I'm going to get a screwdriver here and check that water pump. And there's the hydraulic tensioner. Now on this model, they use that. I believe in 96 on up, they did away with that. They use a some kind of a I'd say a gear with an Allen wrench. They stick in there and that's how you adjust it. So that'll work out pretty good for me. So I'm gonna go. There's a timing mark on this one. I'm gonna mark everything just like it is from the factory. I gotta set everything up first, and we get on top of this. And there's the top gear. And the other mark, let's see, is going to be it's there somewhere. I'll have to turn that cam a little bit. I'll find it, but I believe the mark is down on the bottom right there. There's a mark there. So let me go ahead and jack this engine up a little bit with that jack and get in there and loosen that up and make my. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put the bolt back in the crank. I'm going to turn it until I get everything lined back up where it's perfect in time, and mark the timing belt with a little paint, and when I put it back together it'll be in perfect condition. I'm not going to replace the belt because it's in excellent condition yet. Like it's only got 38,000 miles, so you can see the belt. It's in really good condition, so I'm not going to even waste my time putting a new belt on her, just throw away money. So having said that, I'll go ahead and finish up here, and you can see this is the factory. They put a factory paint mark on it. That is the factory water pump. Strange how it went bad so fast. But once I get it off, we'll look at it. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright, now before I take everything apart, I got my marks all lined up and everything. See if I can zoom in a little bit. There's the mark there. On that one, if you can see that paint mark, I'm going to have to put the light down because I'm just going to waste your time. This is the 3/4 inch socket, by the way. And let me pull this light up here. And there's the mark there. And there is a mark on the crank, on the casing. I don't know if you can be able to see that mark. Let me zoom in a bit more. Right there. There we go. So we're in perfect line there. Perfect time. This is taking it off, of course. And on the top there's the cam shift. This has only got one cam. This is a single overhead cam. And there is my other mark. You can see that there. On the plastic case there is a mark. And on the gear there's a little mark right there. So I'm going to put some paint there and put a little paint on the bottom. And that way I'll know it's in perfect time. I'll have to put the paint probably on that crank on the side there. Just kind of match it up. And I'm good to go. I'll pop this water pump up. You can see how much higher the engine is now since I put a block under it and jacked it up a little bit. You have a lot easier access to stuff here. This makes it a lot easier this way. And let me grab a screwdriver real fast and show. I just wanted to verify something real quick. I'm trying to do this where I don't have to do a lot of edits in my video. Grab my screwdriver. I want to see if I can shake that water pump again. There's the water pump, and you can see. And I don't know if you can see that, but I can move that water pump around. Try to get. Well, it's moving around. Trust me. All right, let me go ahead and take this belt and stuff off, and get the water pump off. All right, I got the tensioner off. There's the 4 bolts that hold that on, and I'm gonna lay it over here. And here's the well, it's not technically, it's just a pulley. The tensioner is here. It's hydraulic, and what you got to do to put this back in, I'll take it out of the light. See that little hole right there? There's a hole in this rod and a hole in the casing. You got to put this in a vise and squeeze it back down and put a pin through there. Then when you bolt this back on there after it's in time, then you release it, and that's what puts tension on the your belt. But I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick here before my battery goes dead. It's all tore down, and here comes the cover. You have to take this cover clear off to get that stuff off. Let me get these bolts here while I'm doing this so I don't lose anything. And there's the water pump, and check this out. I'm going to hold this and spin it with one hand. It's not supposed to sound like this. Bad. And you can see, look at this moving. Ain't supposed to be like that. So I'm gonna see, there's a factory paint mark right there. So this is the original water pump. I wouldn't think, like I said, it would be bad that fast. Get a screwdriver. Check. Is there even more play if I can hold this real steady? See? A lot of play in that. Ain't supposed to do that, homie. Alright, I'll go ahead and unbolt this water pump and go to parts store and get another one for $38. And everything else looks pretty good. No major leaks. Seals are okay, so this will save me some money. Go ahead and put the water pump back on. I'll get this together later this afternoon, and I'll start it up and listen to it run. But that's what that noise was. Sounds like marbles in a can. Alright, guys, I will be back here shortly. Alright, got all my bolts out of my water pump. These are 10, by the way, all 10mm bolts. And to show you I'm doing my own work, I'm going to tap this with a hammer. Hold the camera in the other one. All the bolts are out. See if I can get this off. There it is. It's out. Yeah, doesn't look too bad in there. Clean that up and take this out in the light. Little seal, and wow. Yep. Ain't supposed to make that noise. So, if you have a problem with your water pump, especially the neons, 2 O's, this is probably it. So it's out. Alright, let me go to the store and get another one. A little rattly. Alright, I'll be back here shortly. Also, I wanted to tell you one other thing before I go get the part. This was never leaking. Never had a problem with water leaking out of it or anything. So just because it's not leaking doesn't mean it's bad, just so you know. Alright? Okay, let's go get this part and start putting it back on. And also, as you're putting this together, make sure you check all your bolts, make sure they're all tight. Take a few minutes and go over everything, make sure you didn't miss any bolts, because it's easy to miss a bolt or two, but make sure the pulley is tight. You got a bolt there holding that tensioner on, and you got the 2 bolts that are on that tensioner. Actually, that there is your pulley assembly, I guess, to tighten the belt up. And just make sure everything's tight, and you put it back together. And that's what I just did. I went over a couple things. I had one bolt that was a little loose there, and make sure your cam bolt's tight. I usually tighten it up as much as I can. Then once the belt's on it, I'll take a ratchet. Well, actually, I'll take my let's see if I can find it. My 18mm socket, and I'll put it on here. And I'll take a hammer and I'll tap it a little bit that way to make sure it's good and snug. It doesn't have to be terribly tight, but it has to be tight so it doesn't back off. Alright, I will be back a little bit later and we'll start this thing up. Alright, I forgot to tell you, a lot of you guys probably wonder how I'm getting this pulley back on there without the tool. What I normally do is I will take the damper, put it on there and take a hammer and kind of hit it on there a little ways. Get it going there, go about 1/4 of an inch, or 1/8 of an inch, enough to get your bolt started. And you can see I got some threads there on my bolt, so I'll just take the threads and turn that nut in there like that. And I'll take my trusty old electric wrench here. What you call it? I'm getting tired here. Your electric impact wrench. I will take the electric impact wrench and I'll just do it this way. And it's on. Trust me, you really need one of those if you're going to do this job. It makes life easy. And you can see it's on. Only has to go on about 1/2 inch. It doesn't have to go on terribly far. And to double check it, I'll go up here and look down. Yep. Looks good. Everything looks good. And I'll take my, by the way, that is a 3/4 inch bolt that is on there. I'll take this back off of my electric ratchet. I'll put this on here like this, and I'll take my 3/4 inch breaker bar and I'll turn this, make sure nothing's rubbing. Once I get this together, trying to make this video as short as I can, but it looks like today's one of those days where it's not happening. Alright, I'll turn this, and we're good. Nothing's rubbing. I think we should be okay. That's how I do that, but I know some of you guys will probably give me crap, but if you want to go ahead and get a tool to press that on there, you can. I could have used the tool that I had, but I already took it back today, but I just want to go ahead and get this together. So that's together. I'm going to do some alternator belt on. Remember guys, that alternator, I was telling you about that bolt that tightens that belt up. It's back in the back. It's back down under there on that bracket. And I showed you earlier. Of course, you can't see it, but it's back in there. That's what you got to use to turn to get that alternator tight, so the belt will be tight. So that's it. I will go ahead and finish this up, and we'll start it up here in a little bit and see how it sounds.